This is Personal Injury Court.
Miss Davidson, how did you come to clean Miss Campbell's house?
Well, I was previously working for another family, the Cushers, and they recommended me to the Campbell family. So I've been working for the Campbell family for about 3 years.
So you're pretty much a regular at their house?
I am, Your Honor. I do the bathrooms, I change the sheets, I start the laundry. Unfortunately, I also look after the children sometimes. I mop the floors. I do everything, everything a housekeeper should do.
So, Miss Campbell, this is a full service that Miss Davidson is offering you, right?
It is, Your Honor.
And she did a good job up until this day, right?
She does a good job, yes, Your Honor.
So, Miss Davidson, you're cleaning the house. What happened?
Well, on this particular day, Miss Vivian had asked me to change the contact paper in the kitchen. I decided to go all the way up to the top. I'm doing a great job. I skip lunch.
You're trying to be thorough.
I am thorough because I am very good at what I do. So I continue working and I get to a high shelf and I see that there are some cookies.
She said she couldn't go on the high shelf.
She has always told me, mi casa, su casa.
You thought you had the run of the house while you cleaned?
Of course,
okay.
Absolutely. So because I had worked through lunch, I got a cookie and I ate one cookie.
You were hungry?
I was starving.
Okay.
It tasted a little bit strange.
Now, in the past,
yes,
have you gone into the fridge and gotten a little something to eat while you clean, that kind of stuff?
Of course.
And was that okay?
Absolutely.
You welcome that kind of thing?
The fridge is fine, Your Honor. Becoming a cabinet climber, I didn't expect.
These cookies, was it in a cookie jar, a plate? What was it up there on the shelf?
Yes, Your Honor. It was in a glass jar.
I see you've brought a jar of cookies.
Yes, sir.
That's not the jar of cookies, right?
It is not, Your Honor.
Okay, but it was like
I'm a law-abiding citizen.
So you eat the cookie?
I eat a total of 3.
Okay.
And
you were really hungry then.
I was
okay.
very hungry. And so I start feeling a little funny. A little lightheaded, but I didn't know if it was because I hadn't had lunch, right?
Okay.
So I kind of hold on to the shelf that I was working on, and the next thing I know, I'm nauseous, I'm sweating, I'm dizzy, and I fall off the stool.
The stool she said she couldn't go on.
Excruciating pain. I have never said that.
So you fall off the stool onto the floor?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. And so I actually have to crawl on my hands and knees to get to my phone to call my son, who is luckily at home.
Were you hurt?
I was in excruciating pain. I was also very nauseous, again, like I said, and I ended up throwing up.
And you didn't know what was going on?
I didn't know if I was having a stroke.
Call
911. I had no idea what was going on.
Now, you've got someone cleaning your house.
Yes,
they
sir.
They fall off a stool.
Yes, Your Honor.
Hurt themselves. That's got to be of some concern to you. Right?
Your Honor, here.
Yes or no? It's some concern, right?
Concerned.
Why is it so hard?
It's hard, Your Honor, because for the 3 years that she's worked with my husband and I,
yes, ma'am,
she was very clear from the beginning she could not clean anything up high.
Okay.
She was afraid to go up on ladders.
She told you she was afraid of heights?
3 years ago.
And so why would you have her clean above just floor level then?
This is how it happened, Your Honor.
Okay, tell me.
All that she was supposed to do, there were drawers. The contact paper needed to be changed in those, and on the first 2 levels of shelves, okay? No one sees those shelves up high. Why would I care if they have contact paper up there?
You thought you were climbing up to put contact paper on the high shelf. You had no idea that you would be high and you're gonna fall.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Miss Campbell, you thought that she would stay in her lane and stay away from the weed cookies,
and
true?
not go high.
That's why you put them up high, right?
Right.
Well, when I analyzed the 3 legs of the personal injury case, wrong cause injury, there's obviously an injury. It obviously was caused by this fall and by the weed, but the wrong is shared. That is, you should have labeled or put those cookies away. They're not ordinary cookies. You, on the other hand, you saw them on an open shelf. You saw those cookies were up there and your lunch was in the refrigerator. You could have as easily and as quickly eaten your lunch rather than these cookies. So you bear some fault for your injuries, but not all of the fault. 51% of this, Miss Campbell, is yours. 49% of this is yours, Miss Davidson. That's why this court is not going to award you $80,000, because you have fault in your injuries. This court is going to award you $40,800 which is 51% of what you asked for. So I find in your favor and against Ms. Campbell. That is my verdict, and this matter is adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Raymond, tell me how we got here. What led to you going to this property?
I'm a licensed plumber.
Okay.
And I got a call from Mark, a very frantic call, asking me to drop what I was doing and come fix this issue.
How long have you been a plumber?
I've been a plumber for about 20 years.
Okay.
I've been taking care of this building for about 7.
So you've done work for Mr. Robinson before?
I have, and he keeps me fully employed. I do a really great job. I love what I do. I've been able to make a living for my family for quite a few years now.
So, Mr. Robinson, you had an emergency this day.
Yes, Your Honor, I did. Basically, what had happened was we had a sewage buildup in the pipeline, and it was starting to overflow through the grass. I was getting many complaints from all of the residents.
But before this day, he was your plumber. He was the guy that took care of your needs.
Yes, Your Honor, about 7 years. I mean, he's a good guy. He's done good work, other than the fact that I've started to know a lack of performance lately.
Okay, so he's kind of your main guy, despite some ticks here and there, but he's your main guy.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Robinson, this property is an apartment building, right?
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
got a bunch of toilets, bunch of sinks, bunch of bathrooms, right?
That's correct.
Plenty need for a plumber. Mm-hmm. How many units?
Units, there's a total of 45 units in the main building.
And how long have you owned this building?
I've owned this building for the past 12 years.
And Mr. Raymond, what happened on this day?
On this day, I got this call. It was an emergency. So I dropped what I was doing. I headed straight over there in my truck, my work truck, parked in front of the building. I grabbed my toolbox and I got there. I could see him waving at me.
And
at
the
entrance.
emergency, Mr. Robinson, was this sewage buildup?
Yes, Your Honor. It was a catastrophe.
And it's something only a plumber could address and solve.
Absolutely, and immediately.
So, Mr. Raymond, you were going over to solve this emergency.
Yes, sir.
So then what happened?
I parked right in front of the building so I could have access to my work vehicle.
Yes, sir.
I grabbed my toolbox and I started heading straight to him. Few steps in and my foot went through a hole and I went down, sir. I went down and I was hurt. My shoulder, my side, my ankle. I didn't know what was wrong, but I couldn't get up.
Mr. Robinson, did you see this?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
Mr. Raymond, what's that hole about? You submitted this photograph.
Yeah, so that's, I'm sorry. So that's the hole that I put my foot through as I was trying to get across to fix this other emergency.
Okay, and
ankle went
you
all the
stepped
way
in
through.
that hole?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's where I see you've got this boot on your right foot. Is that the foot that went into this
I
hole?
broke my ankle going in there. I broke my ankle, and so I've got a boot here that's, I can hardly walk. I can't do much because
Now I see you've got that shoulder apparatus on. What happened to your shoulder?
So I separated and dislocated the shoulder when I went down.
Okay.
And then part of that tore my rotator cuff, so I had to have surgery for that.
In every personal injury case, the plaintiff must prove 3 things. The plaintiff must prove that the defendant did something wrong, and that wrong caused your injuries. Mr. Raymond, you were clearly injured. You were injured when you stepped into a hole that you didn't remember was there because the cover was missing and the flag was missing. Had they been there, you would have run right around them and solved his problems, and you all would not be here today.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Robinson, you believe he put the hole there. He should know that. Plus, you got a big sign saying stay off the grass. The sidewalk is 12 to 20 feet away. He could have done that and solved your problem, and we wouldn't be here today.
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, there's no way you forget a job that you do. There's
Well,
no way
that
you
kind of
forget
hits
that.
common sense.
Yeah,
But the law's beyond common sense. It's pretty technical. And the technical part of the law says that when you are a landowner or a building owner, you have a responsibility to maintain the property. That is, in its safe condition, you keep it safe. The problem I have here is that it was safe when Mr. Raymond put that cover on and put the sign up. But when you knew that your guys had hit it with the lawnmower, now it became a hazard that he wouldn't necessarily know about. I find, Mr. Raymond, that you have proven that Mr. Robinson was wrong in not at least telling you about this hole being there, or at least replacing the cap. I find that you have proven that his wrong in not replacing the cap caused your injuries. And in that regard, I'm going to award you $100,000 in medical bills, $50,000 in lost wages, and every single penny of $100,000 for pain and suffering, Your Honor, for a total award of $250,000. So, Mr. Bailey, what happened?
Well, Your Honor, we were having a fun game, and then I got pegged in the back.
When you say pegged in the back, does that mean someone shot you?
Yeah, another player from the other team shot me in the back with a paintball.
Okay.
It wasn't the first time that I'd been hit that day, but
That's 'cause you're
as you can see, there's an image up on the
Paintball
screen.
does that?
It can, Your Honor. They travel pretty quick. They can leave some pretty nasty bruises and welts, as you can see.
That must be a lot of fun to go through that.
There is an adrenaline rush
He's
involved.
just not a
there.
very good player, Your Honor.
So someone shot you in the back, then what did you do?
I was headed to the safety zone, which is where you're supposed to go when you get hit by a paintball. And I was headed there when Jane came out of nowhere, Your Honor, and shot me. Actually, I should call her Lieutenant Ward, shot me point blank in the crotch with this.
Your Honor, no, that is a
You got shot
mischaracterization.
in a man's sacred place?
And what's supposed to be sacred, Your Honor.
Oh man, that hurts just hearing about this.
Yeah, it hurt really bad. So I was actually, the paintball hit me directly in the privates, and it was overwhelming. I was blinded with pain, as you can imagine, getting hit in such
He's
a...
laying it
I
on
can
thick,
imagine.
Your Honor.
I was
He's
blind.
laying it on thick.
Yeah, I knew because of where she hit me that it was going to be a serious injury. Like you can see from the bruises on my back and the welts, that getting shot in the privates is going to cause some damage. And I just collapsed right there from the pain. My knees just buckled and I fell and landed right on my face, which is, as you can see, where I got these scratches.
If a paintball can do that to your back, I cannot imagine the kind of pain you had when it hit you in the right spot.
And being ambushed, Your Honor.
I
So,
did
Ms.
not
Ward, why
ambush
did you shoot him there?
First of all, Your Honor, I wasn't even targeting him. I had someone else in my sights. And as I was ducking and shooting and running and shooting at the same time to protect myself, Mr. Bailey comes out of nowhere and he gets caught in the crossfire.
So you weren't trying to shoot him?
No, I wasn't targeting him at all. I had no malicious intent against him. This was
This
an
seems like a
accident.
pretty specific mistake, though.
No, sir. I was not aiming for him at all.
Your
This
Honor,
was
I
an
had already been
accident.
eliminated from the game. I was heading off the field. I mean...
Mr. Bailey, you submitted an exhibit to this court. I want to pull it up on the plasma screen here and have you cross over so you can explain to me exactly how this happened.
I'd be happy to, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bailey, explain to me what happened.
So I'm the figure depicted in blue here. The defendant, Jane, is depicted in pink below, near the safety zone, which is where I was headed after I'd been hit in the back. This player is on the other team as well, on Jane's team, but he's not related to the incident here. I actually get shot off in the back by somebody off the screen. So here I am, hit in the back, trying to head to the safety zone, which is what you're supposed to do, and bam, the defendant, Jane, hits me right in the privates, Your Honor. Ambush me.
You put up evidence today to try to convince this court that Miss Ward did this intentionally.
Yes, sir.
You've given me a little flavor for the fallout from you all's relationship. You showed me the diagram of how this happened and that you were headed to the safe zone and that she should not have shot you unless she wanted to. Miss Ward, as a novice paintball shooter, you say this was basically a lucky shot that really was intended for somebody else, that you didn't want to shoot him, you didn't want any more connection with him, and you certainly don't want to be held responsible for a simple accident. This is paintball, you get shot. He ought to know that, right? Here, the first legal principle that is highlighted is assumption of risk. The law says that when you engage in an activity with full knowledge of what the likely risk is, you bear the burden of injury. When you play paintball, you bear the burden of being injured by a paintball. However, here, you don't bear the burden of being shot in the groin by someone who's trying to hurt you. The second legal principle is the weighing of credibility of witnesses. You, as the plaintiff, have the burden of proof. When you start a case, the scales of justice as to proof, they are equal. You must tip them however slightly. That's called a preponderance of the evidence, a superior weight. Here, you said that Ms. Ward intentionally tried to shoot you. Ms. Ward, you say this was purely an accident. I think that both of you are telling the truth. That leaves the scales evenly balanced. And what that means is, Mr. Bailey, you lose because you have not sustained your burden of proof, and I find in your favor, Ms. Ward, and against the plaintiff. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned.